Time now for business. We say hello to Yuke Royer.
Hi, Francois.
We have a war of words between Australia's Prime Minister and Elon Musk.
That's right. Well, Anthony Albanese branded the ex-owner as an arrogant billionaire who thinks he's above the law in response to Musk's social media comments accusing the Australian government of censorship. The spat stemmed from X's reluctance to comply with the country's internet regulator's request to take down footage of last week's alleged terrorist attack in Sydney, while other social media firms did comply. Barika Bahel has the latest.
When it comes to Elon Musk, the Australian Prime Minister doesn't mince his words.
Well, this guy is showing his arrogance. He's a billionaire over there in the United States who thinks he's above Australian law. And the idea that someone would go to court for the right to put up violent content on a platform shows how out of touch Mr. Musk is.
The spat began last week following the stabbing of an Assyrian bishop in a Sydney church, where a 16-year-old boy was charged for terrorism. Bloody footage from a live stream circulated heavily on social media, prompting Australia's e-safety commissioner to issue tech giants with injunctions to remove worldwide access to the videos. Australia's federal court on Monday gave X 24 hours to remove the content or face hefty fines. But the SpaceX founder bit back at Canberra, arguing one country shouldn't be able to ban global access.
Our concern is that if any country is allowed to censor content for all countries, which is what the Australian e-safety commissioner is demanding, then what is to stop any country from controlling the entire internet?
Outside of Australia, online content regulation is practiced by the UK's Online Safety Act, which can suppress media deemed harmful, as well as the EU's Digital Services Act, which can force tech companies to curb the spread of toxic content for users' safety. A further hearing on the rift is expected this week, where it will be decided in court whether to extend the injunction.
United States, meanwhile, drafting new sanctions that could cut some Chinese banks off from global markets. This on the eve of a three-day visit by the U.S. Secretary of State.
That's right. Well, the Biden administration has grown increasingly concerned about China's support for Russia's war efforts, and this new threat could give some diplomatic leverage to Antony Blinken during his three-day visit to Beijing, this according to the Wall Street Journal. China has heeded Western warnings not to send arms to Russia, but its exports of so-called dual-use goods, these are commercial items that could also have military uses, have surged in recent months. The report says that U.S. officials are hoping that the threat of Chinese banks losing access to the dollar will persuade Beijing to curb this type of trade. On Tuesday, though, China's foreign ministry accused Washington of making, quote, groundless accusations. Let's take a listen.
China's always controlled the export of dual-use items in accordance with laws and regulations. It did not create the Ukraine crisis, nor is it a party to it. It has never added fuel to the fire nor profited from the crisis and will not accept the blame-shifting game. China's right to have normal economic and trade exchanges with countries around the world, including Russia, should not be impeded or undermined.
And speaking of the global financial system, Russia's top bank doesn't seem to mind sanctions too much.
Well, that's Sberbank. It's raked in 1.5 trillion rubles in profits in 2023, or just over $16 billion. That's a more than five-fold increase on the previous year as Russia's financial sector recovered from the impact of sanctions. The lender announced that its board recommended dividend payouts of 33 rubles per share on this result, totaling about $8 billion. That's a record amount. Sberbank is majority owned by the Russian state, so these dividends will make a sizable contribution to Russia's budget revenues and support the government's heavy spending.
And it's earnings seasons not just in Russia.
That's right. Well, a host of companies around the world, in the US and here in Europe, reporting their Q1 results this week. And London's FTSE 100 hit a fresh record high this Tuesday, in part boosted by a weaker pound. Sterling has dropped against the US dollar amid expectations that the Bank of England and the European Central Bank are now more likely to start cutting interest rates before the US Federal Reserve. The index, though, slowed down its climb in later trading today, ending the day just below the previous record Frankfurt's DAX was up 1.5% at the close, and Paris's CAC 40 rose 0.8%. Wall Street's main indexes also advanced as stocks like General Motors and Spotify rose on better-than-expected quarterly results. Major tech shares, including Meta, Microsoft and Alphabet, gained between 1.4% and 2.6% today.